Historians. It is time for another preview episode. Spoiler-filled fun times Saturday afternoon. Well, maybe not Saturday afternoon for you, but it's Saturday afternoon when we're live recording this. We are making predictions for the next episode, talking spoilers, things from Fire and Blood, things we missed on Monday, occasionally things from the interviews and behind the scenes. Today, to help us break all this down, discuss it, and have a lot of good times, are our friends, half of Direwolf City. We've got a whole half city on as guests today. How are y'all doing? We got Alisha and Arah. What's going on, y'all?
Hey, I'm geeking out right now, and I'm trying so hard to keep my dignity intact without fangirling too much, but thank you so much for having us on.
Right on. Hey, Arah, how you doing?
Yeah. I would say echo Alicia's sentiment. It's such a pleasure to have you guys invite us to your home for today. I know for me and Alisha, you guys are pioneers in this. If I can be so bold to say that, you guys have been doing this for quite a long time. I know both of us have listened to you guys for years, so this is really exciting to actually be on the other side with you.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much for saying that. We appreciate it. And y'all are streaming right after us on Mondays. It's pretty perfect. Some of y'all have heard us say, hey, now that we're done, head on over to Direwolf City. That's 8:30 Eastern on Mondays. And tell us about what y'all do and the other half of your squad as well while we're at it.
Yeah, so Monday nights at 8:30 Eastern, we have our, episode after shows. We also have another podcast that we do called Preposterous AF, which we've been getting a lot of questions about.
Nice.
Be on the lookout for announcements soon.
What's the deal with Preposterous AF? I've checked it out, but I think a lot of folks out here need an explanation.
Yeah, Alicia,
Preposterous AF is our separate podcast. We do make a Song of Ice and Fire references now and again, but it's more unsolved, more unexplained, crazy stories more than anything, and we kind of put a humorous spin on it because some of the stories that are presented are preposterous.
That's awesome. Yeah, so. Fantastic. I love it. That's a great idea. That's a really good name too. Caught my attention when y'all first dropped. I was like, that's a good name for that show.
So I'm curious, what's y'all's spoiler policy for Monday streams? Are you guys doing a mixed thing or what for our listeners who are curious?
This past Monday was the first time we've ever really delved into spoilers, but we purposefully waited until we reviewed the whole episode without spoilers.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so
we've been trying really hard not to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good way to do it.
We were letting the spoilers fly a lot in the first few episodes, but we did have a lot of more of our more casual viewers kind of ask us to reel it back.
Yeah.
So for them, we've kind of just been pushing it towards the end of the episode.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
That's what we did for the first number of years. And I mean, now we do 2 episodes a week, so we split it, but we did a first half or first 2/3 spoilery before.
It's a good model, yeah, for sure. So yeah, y'all can catch us as well on Mondays at 6 right before Direwolf City, the old back-to-back. And if you watch later, you can always catch the replays as well on YouTube or on Spotify. And the podcast versions will drop a little while after that. And it's kind of the opposite of our regular streams where the podcast version drops first. But hey, different things, different times. So you can always get those podcast versions after on Spotify or Amazon Music or iTunes or anywhere you catch podcasts. Looks like we got a super chat from Maura Lee here saying, for Aziz, our Queen of Shea, and your fabulous guests, love you guys. Sorry, love you guys and your channel. Appreciate it, Maura. We'll see if we can get some cat action in this one for you.
Yeah, I know, right?
See if they're around.
That's what the people want.
That's right. That's what the cats want.
That's
too.
what Alisha specifically requested before the episode. It's what that
Come
person
on, Jakin. Come through.
Well, let's get to it. We've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We'll start with a couple things from the last episode. Mostly we'll focus on the coming episode. And it's going to be exciting because this is the last episode before the time jump, y'all. Something like a 10-year time jump, which is unprecedented for a Game of Thrones show. Heck, for most shows don't have 10-year time jumps. A few of them do. But it's a strange thing to think about, especially with trailers. We can kind of isolate things and be like, well, there's Millie Alcock in a trailer scene. That's got to be this episode. We haven't seen it yet. Kind of narrow things down that way. And so that makes things really interesting. So we're going to talk about that. That'll be a lot of fun. But let's back up to Storm's End first. I was wondering, did y'all interpret this Gerald Bracken?
Oh wait, I just want to say real quick, everyone. Never mind. It's very clear. It's very clear. Like, this is very spoilery stream. It says so. We've gotten some comments from people. I'm like, y'all, be aware. We're about to spoil a bunch of stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So the death of Gerald there by itself was mostly just kind of a fun moment. It was as fun as someone being stabbed can be. But I wonder if
it's a Bracken being stabbed. It can be decently fun, but they're still children.
Yeah. I wonder if it's meant to be a little portentous because this is Storm's End. We thought maybe they were setting up Boros Baratheon rejecting Rhaenyra later and switching sides, like he was going to like she was going to piss him off here or something, but he wasn't anywhere to be seen, so that's clearly not relevant. But the death of Luke is going to happen at Storm's End, probably episode 10, probably one of the last things that happens this season.
So basically they're showing that Storm's End is where shit goes down.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting, as well as just this idea that, first of all, his name is Willem, and I'm disappointed in myself for not thinking of the nickname Billy the Kid ahead of time, but better late than never. So he's Billy the Kid. That's his name. I've decided.
So they're not Amos and Samwell?
No.
Apparently they're elsewhere. They haven't been like erased.
So yeah, I can say that I did reach out and ask about it, and it's one of those situations where they cast him as Willem Blackwood, thinking that if they can't recast this person later, then it helps. It's like a Beric Dondarrion season 1 situation where they don't want to have to like recast someone because they can't get them later, so make a family member. Anyways, there's stuff that went on behind the scenes in terms of how to cast it, but probably this is not a replacement for Sam unless Willem is very popular, which he is, and can come back. So they have left themselves open to where this can be Sam's brother making this Bloody Ben's uncle, or this can be, instead of Sam Blackwood, we have Willem Blackwood. It's my understanding of the situation, that it isn't actually nailed down until season 2.
Yeah, they wrote themselves some room.
Yeah.
I deeply appreciate the attention to detail like that. Like, you can see Ryan Condal is blowing kisses to book leaders left and right in every single episode, so I'm here for it.
Hell yeah. And blowing wind, that was apparently, if you all watched the behind the scenes, that's why that scene was so windy.
I saw that.
Because they wanted it to be like Storm's End, where the wind would be blowing off of Shipbreaker Bay. It's supposed to be windy, so good job, showrunners there as well.
Yeah, but this sets up really well the idea that like later on, Gerald Bracken's, I guess, brother Amos is going to kill a Blackwood in turn, and so I think this is like pretty cool to set that later up. Yeah.
It's kind of ominous. Like Rhaenyra walks away, kind of like what her dad would do. It's not something new. This is how she's been raised to rule, like just to say meh when people are acting out. She's like, yeah, it's not my problem. Probably not the best way to rule, though. Like her father, a lot of things are just kind of require more attention, that he mostly just kind of leaves them and lets them play out, and that has bad results sometimes. But so I wonder, what do y'all think about that?
Sorry, I will get better at interrupting.
No, you're
good.
I do think that's actually foreshadowed. Like that whole audience room in Storm's End is foreshadowing not only for Lucerys but also Rhaenyra's 6-month rule when she does take the Iron Throne. Part of what went so wrong with her reign was her saying meh and just taking an apathetic approach to things while people around her are running amok and kind of ruining the realm.
That's a great tag. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we were looking for with that. I didn't catch it the first time, but thinking about it during the week, it kind of feels like that. She's just like, like a good leader would be like, no, don't do that. Stop fighting. Especially don't fight over me, not like that. But she's just like, I don't care. Which, yeah, like honestly, her dad would do that too.
I kind of thought of Bobby B's voice ringing in my head. Stop this madness in the name of your king. I was like, that's what you should have did right now. Yeah, that would have been nice.
That would have been a boss move for sure, yeah. So, but she didn't want to. She's like, I'm out of here.
She's a teenager. I do love the nuance that she means well as she can mean, but the bottom line is she is still entitled.
Yeah, she is definitely entitled. She's very naive. Like her conversation with Kristen Cole, like a couple episodes ago, she's like, "Well, how nice to have a choice and all this other stuff." And they're like, "Yeah, you're only looking at the things you don't have, not looking at the things you do have that no one else has." Yeah, she's classic privilege there. So yeah, it's kind of like the tournament, the way that people just were started fighting, and everyone's like, people are fighting. Okay, then go ahead. So
but they have done a really good job at making her like, yeah, she is a very privileged princess in a pseudo medieval time, but she's still a relatable teen figure to me.
Yeah,
like with I mean, we've talked about it a bunch already, but just little things like her listening to music, like little things like that go a long way.
Yeah,
with making a character relatable.
Listening to a song over and over.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, with your favorite book.
It's your book. Yeah, it's nice things like that.
The mumbling in the carriage and her dad being like, "What?" and then her being like, "I said."
Yeah, my own heart. I felt her.
And Millie Alcock's doing such a good job of that too. Yeah. So of course, obviously, like Ashaya said, this sets up more Bracken Blackwood action coming later, which we did know and is pretty predictable in this world. We're like, yeah, the Brackens and Blackwoods will fight, and it's also that's a great point too. If any house is going to fight, they're the symbol of two houses that you gotta handle. It's like, if you're gonna rule, be aware of these two over here. As you're like, when one ruler passes the torch to another, like, here's the little things you got to keep an eye on. Like these two right here. Watch out for them. And especially
for no damn reason too.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
So moving on, a couple other little things before we get to the new episode. Helena's crying. We didn't talk about that on Monday because that's all foreshadowing. Just the bouncing baby crying like, oh boy, this is gonna make
crying in front of a window.
Yeah, crying in front of a window because the jump. She's gonna jump eventually. Apparently, that probably won't be till season 3, but I don't know. Her life. She's gonna give Catelyn a run for her money for sad mother tragedies. Oh, yeah. And of course Alicent will have her share too. It ain't good. It's not good. That's not something I'm looking forward to, but it's coming. Any thoughts on that, y'all? Or is it just like sad?
do you two hold the perspective that she actually jumped, or do you make room for maybe she was also pushed?
I was gonna bring that up to Aziz when he just said it as if it was fact. I was like, we don't know for sure what happened there. I kind of lean towards thinking that she did jump because things were pretty rougher. Like, that's not unreasonable, the idea that she would do that, but I would not have said it as confidently as Aziz, like, oh, she jumped. I would have definitely been like, Helena's killed with the wind. I wouldn't have been as confident.
I didn't mean to express that version confidently, just that she's going out the window. I do think
one way or another.
But I wouldn't say I feel strongly as in, like, I would be disappointed if it went one way or another. Like, I don't, like, there's some things where I'm like, man, I really hope it goes this way, but I don't feel strongly. Do either of you feel strongly on that?
Just refreshing my memory here. That is post Maelor.
Yeah,
correct?
Exactly.
She's lost both her sons by then. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, I think she probably Tommened herself, if you will.
Yeah.
However, her daughter, I definitely think was pushed.
I agree. Yeah, because she's more of like an heir. She's part of.
Like, it's a little like a child. Yeah, it's so much more unlikely for that to be the case. Absolutely.
Yeah, from that age, that's a good point too. And
I would personally say it's 50-50.
Okay,
I don't have a strong opinion because it's so plausible one way or another.
Yeah.
In multiple perspectives.
Yeah, when you have that kind of loss in your life, you can't put that. You can't just ignore that possibility for sure. Plus, there's a bunch of scheming bastages around. So yeah, there's both things possible. Now, one of the things we did point out, without directly pointing out what it meant, we just gave a "if you know, you know" to the rats in Balerian's skull, which was a blood and cheese reference almost certainly. What I missed, though, was there's also a rat on Alicent's bedpost, which is just right there with it. I didn't see that one. So that just goes right along there with it, and yikes, all this fits together. So it's
people need to cool it with the blood and cheese references on Twitter. Stop bringing it up, y'all, because like everyone is so keyed in. As soon as they hear the names, everyone's just gonna know at this point. It's I'm like, shh.
People are so giddy.
I think we might have actually seen blood already.
Oh, really?
I think that City Watch guard that's like super close to Daemon. I forgot what they named him, but we see him a few times. I think it might be him.
Yeah, his name was like Captain something. I thought it was going to be Breakbones, and then it was going to shrink things or make it. But yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. Yeah, that could be him. Or
It's
actually, I
going to
thought
be
it was gonna
something
be
like
lukewarm.
Captain Sanguine or something.
Sanguine. Nice. So I was going to talk about this later, but we've gotten new information on it, and it fits in with some foreshadowing and health issues. So let's talk about Viserys's declining health and how some reveals came out this week. Patty Considine talked about having some form of leprosy, which is like, what? Apparently it's not the kind that you can transmit, because Allison would have gotten it by now. So good that it's not the kind that can be passed. But there was a new shot from an upcoming episode where he's going to have a mask. Apparently, I
did not grab that shot because I don't want to look at that shot again. It was really scary looking, but he's got like the Crusader Kings 2 style mask on his face.
Phantom of the Opera type, but it's fancier. It's like gold.
And he's
or
like
something.
balded. You'll see when it comes, but I don't want to look at that for a second more than I have to.
But we do have in this episode. What's that?
I was going to say, is this where all the Eyes Wide Shut references come from?
Ding.
I was gonna say I kind of was getting a lot of Henry IV vibes. Henry Bolingbroke, who died of some weird form of like a skin disease. They just say leprosy because back then obviously they didn't have the science to figure out what exactly caused it, but essentially just caused his body to just get disfigured over like a course of like 8 years. And like he had bouts where it just got really bad and it calmed down and then kept doing that. And George loves his little English history nods, so I'm assuming this might tie into that.
It's also a reminder of Kingdom of Heaven. If y'all saw Kingdom of Heaven, the King Baldwin is the leper king, and you only ever see him in a mask. He makes that one guy kiss his feet and hands because he's done awful things, and his hands are all covered in sores. It's that guy Brendan Gleeson, from Braveheart and so many things. So he's like,
isn't Orlando Bloom in that movie?
He is. He's the main dude. they made Baldric or Bald something. I forget his name.
King Baldwin the Fourth here.
No, I'm thinking of
the actual name of Orlando.
Name. Yeah, Baldwin's the king. Yeah. I said Legolas. Legolas is who he is. He's Legolas, yeah.
No, he is.
He does shoot a bow once or twice in the movie. But speaking of, it made me think ahead, though, even more. Viserys, as bad as he looks, as gross as he looks, with all his diseases and his missing his fingers, Aegon II's going to make him look like a healthy man with a minor hangnail problem. His own son with his burns and everything, the metal melted into his flesh from the dragon fire. Are we going to have to see him with Helena looking like that, too? Is that going to be just the same? Oh, jeez, I don't...
I personally don't think so, because he doesn't seem to have much interest in her, at least from what we get from Fire and Blood. So he seems like, all right, I'm just going to coupling with her.
Like an Aegon the Fourth thing.
So maybe we'll see him with a lover, though, still. As he just wants to see Aegon looking messed up, getting down and dirty, is what I've taken from this. So don't disappoint him.
They need love, too.
Well, they have him looking like Timothy Chalamet at first, so you can only go down from there.
Someone said something like, never mind, so off track. Never mind. Anyway. But
then we did get our first look at teen Aegon there just yesterday.
His hair is big.
Looking like a little poo-poo head.
Yeah. But I was going to say, he looks nice. We have like similar wigs.
Oh, yeah. Y'all do have matching wigs. That's true.
But weren't all of waves. But weren't all of his children conceived and delivered before he became impotent from the burns?
I think so. I don't know if he became impotent from the burns. I think he might have still been able to do it after the burn, but he couldn't do it after his fall because he gets the two massive injuries. It's like, geez.
Okay.
He might not be able to after the first one. He definitely can after the second one. I'm not sure.
Isn't he spirited away for a really long time after his first injury?
Yeah, we're not going to get a whole lot of him at all until the end, I guess. Like, he'll be real brief. It'll mostly be Aemond, I think, will be the main.
They might kind of find a way to, without ruining there'll be a void of mystery that's filled, because you know what Aegon's up to, but something tells me they'll find a way to fill that void with something that's still interesting. But because he's spirited away pretty quickly after his first injury, his burns. I don't think they'll really get Helaena and burned.
I just can't get over you using the word "spirited away" for Aegon. I'm like picturing him as like the protagonist of Spirited Away, the movie.
Yeah, that's a good point about him and Helaena. If he's just off screen recovering, there won't be much time for much else, and we might see Larry Strong kind of represent what's going on with Aegon rather than actually seeing him.
I would love to see Helaena just like living a better life without Aegon too around.
Just a little
She's
while
like,
before things start to really
things
go
are
good.
great. I don't miss them
Just
so
chilling
much.
with her mom.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll get that.
No, I think she'll probably be upset.
Blood Jesus probably going to be like the first episode next year.
Yeah, not much time for Helaena to be happy.
Oh, that'll probably be how they open up season 2 with a bang.
Yeah, that's our theory, our running theory.
Because we think Vhagar Arax is like one of the last things, and then that's the revenge for it. So
yeah.
Dragon on dragon action.
Yeah, Aegon is.
My best guess was no later than episode 2 of season 2.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree there. So yes, a lot of these characters defined by tragedy. I'm also really wondering how Aemond and Aegon will interact with each other. That's not in the book a lot. Like their interactions, brotherly interactions, really aren't brought up very much. It's mostly just them feuding with the Strongs, the Rhaenyra's kids. So that's mostly what we get from Fire and Blood. So I think they might flesh that out a little more, showing them get close to Criston Cole or whatever, however that goes. But that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Let's bring it back to current times and talk about what's happening in episode 4.
Current pastimes.
Yeah, current pastimes. So we got a lot of good trailer shots we'll take care of during this one. Let's start with the Vale. This is a simple-ish one, as far as it should be shorter than the whole wedding, which will probably dominate the episode.
The Vale.
For obvious reasons. The Vale. Let's pull up a few shots of this. So we know Daemon is going to kill Rhea. That's not in Fire and Blood, but in Fire and Blood, it's listed as she had an accident and it changed history. I'm cool with this change because it looks kind of Deus Ex Machina for her just to die, right? For no reason. Like, oh, that's convenient for Daemon. On the other hand, it makes Daemon a little more uber, like he's just this murdering guy that goes around everywhere. I don't suppose that's a big change.
To be
He is a
clear,
murderer.
we see this shot of Rhea and her uncle Royce, or relative Royce, and
Royce, Rhea Royce, and relative Royce of Runestone. Yes.
And so, but we also see in the trailer this shot that I pulled up of Daemon with a hood on, and he is clearly in the same valley, the same Vale Valley with the green background. So that's why we are confident that this isn't just happening without Daemon around.
And there's a shot of the horse being like her horse going over, and there's
over.
a person there.
I like the idea that I do see him there. I see him
he's just standing right there. Yeah.
See, he just scared her. He didn't mean to kill her.
He didn't mean
the background.
Surprise!
Yeah, he was trying to surprise her. He's like, "I'm home," and she's like, "Oh no!" And then she dies.
Can you imagine?
I would actually legitimately love that if it was like an accident.
Like, hey, baby, I'm back. Like, ah! No, I swear I didn't kill her. I really didn't mean to.
I do think, though, like, they'll kind of leave it ambiguous, like some of Daemon's worst acts. That seems to be both a pattern in the books and in the show so far, like a little bit up to interpretation. Because it always, in the books, it talks about how Daemon was a villain to some, a hero to others. So I think Condal's going to stay true to that.
Yeah, and I think it is very possible to play that scene that we see in a way that it could be an accident, that it could not. I just looking at that shot, like, I know we're laughing at the idea, but the idea that he startles her I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'm reading too much. Maybe it's a little bit of an accident. Yeah,
like I would like it.
What's that, Arah?
And it kind of looked like when her horse is rearing back a little bit, it kind of looks like she had like maybe a sword or something in her hand.
Is that a bow?
I think it's her bow, but yeah, she does have her bow, and she's got like she's been hunting, and she's got a pheasant.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Harwin Strong would approve of Rhea Royce.
More proof that runic armor does not protect the wearer from harm entirely. But
the ADHD person in me, I watched that scene, and my very first thought wasn't, "Oh, that's Rhea dying in the Vale." It was, God, I wonder how the stunt woman did that.
Yeah, you got to be good at horses. Like, remember when Podrick in the original Game of Thrones was making it look like he wasn't good at riding horses. It's like, actually, he's really good at riding horses because
It
that's
makes
how you
me
make him
think
look
of
bad.
in the tourney episode in episode 1. They showed the behind the scenes of like them on like flying off the horses and how they did that. And it's super impressive.
Yeah, how do you do that? Jeez.
I agree.
Shout out to the stunt people. So that armor looks super cool. I've never felt more like a teenage boy staring at a woman's chest so much. Like,
as I zoom in on her
yeah, it's
chest.
like I swear I've never stared at a woman's chest that long without. And no, really, I was looking at her shirt. Like, you've heard that. It's like, no, I was looking at your shirt. I really was looking at her shirt. But that is super cool. I mean, y'all get it. Like, that is badass. This is what we wanted. This is the kind of detail we are like, yes, that's cool. I guess David J. Peterson did that. I mean, didn't draw it himself, but came up with that script. But
yeah, I'll be curious to hear him talk about that.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to ask him about that. Any thoughts on this Royce situation, y'all? Like, is this y'all think this is gonna happen first? Because I think we see the Royce uncle at the wedding. Maybe he's going there to complain.
I personally think it's going to happen early since we do see Daemon at the wedding, and I feel like the only way he'd be able to be allowed back at the wedding is if she was already gone.
Maybe that's part of it. Like, my wife is gone. I need to get remarried.
Like, you said to go back to the Vale to my wife. My wife's dead. Guess I can come home now.
And remember in canon, he gets kicked out of the Vale. He goes there and is like, I get her lands. And they're like, get the hell out of here. He's like, hey, brother, I had to leave. They kicked me out. So, yeah, maybe that's it. Could be something as simple as that. It's not that he got permission to come back. He got kicked out of the other place. Yeah.
Where am I to go?
I guess I'll go to the wedding and find myself a new wife. Yeah.
And I can totally see Viserys being a sucker for that, because I know y'all don't get into astrology on this podcast, but Viserys is a big Libra to me. So
super indecisive.
Nice.
Super indecisive.
He is indecisive.
Thought,
what
if?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say a quick thought. What if Daemon purposely kills Rhea so he can try to actually marry Rhaenyra now that he doesn't have a wife, but then finds out, she's been betrothed to Laenor, and he's like,
well, then he spies Lena, and he's like, actually, I wonder if that's gonna happen. Like, he just all of a sudden he does a double take. He's like, hello.
And if she arrives on Vhagar, I think that would be enough to grab his attention.
A
Do
dragon
y'all
bigger
think
than
Daemon
his.
actually? Do y'all think Daemon actually cared about Lena? Because the romantic in me kind of thinks that he did.
I think he did.
I think he cared about her. I do.
Like touring
Seems like
around,
his type.
and having the kids. And...
Yeah. I would say I think that he cared. I don't think that, but I also don't think that he goes to this wedding thinking about her at all. I think she really is truly off of his radar right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it dawns on him that she's
like,
she's worthy in his mind. She's a dragon rider and has the bloodline, but also has
of
this
age
closeness to the, maybe as a stepping stone to rising higher for him, for his ambitions as well. Yeah, I think so. I think he might actually like that, yeah. And Viserys is going to think that. Like you were saying, Viserys is being so indecisive. One of the reasons he's so indecisive is he finds reasons to be happy again. He finds reasons to make it all look okay. He's good at looking at the bright side even when he shouldn't, maybe, is a more flattering way to put it. But remember in Fire and Blood, it's later, after they have kids, after Bale and Rhaenyra are born, but he's like, my brother will have changed. He's a father now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Daemon will fool him into thinking he's mourning for Rhea or something silly like that. I'm silly meaning we will know how dishonest that is. But we'll see.
I always wish there was some sort of when you read the books, some sort of disembodied Ron Howard voice, like in Arrested Development, that's like, maybe Daemon will have changed, and Ron Howard's like, he didn't.
He did not change. Yeah, that would be so perfect. Arrested Daemon development, yes. So Driftmark, let's move on to Driftmark unless y'all have any other thoughts about the Vale.
I think I'm good. I will say I'm super curious if Rhea is going to clash and not get along with Daemon because she's very holier than thou, first man type of lady, or if she's like cool. Like I'm curious if she's like religious and severe, or if she is just too cool for Daemon. I guess I'm super curious just what her personality will be, because there's a lot of ways they could go.
She could be like Alicent, which would make it straightforward, like she's religious and rules following woman or whatever.
Yeah, like that's it was always been my impression, but then I see this cool like fighter. Yes,
Alisha.
I think she just has no interest in him, and that is what bugs him. I don't think she feels strongly one way or another, and he's the youngest child, so he's like, what? You know,
not
I think that's what it is.
That's a great way to, that would bother him. Just, I don't have time for your BS, like, just treats him like a child, and it's like, how dare you? Yeah, but you really kind of are a child, just a very, very dangerous one. That's a great idea. Yeah, like one idea I had was that the Royces are the seat of First Men culture in the Vale, but the Vale is also a very like Seven nobility, the seat of the end all nobility there. So they might have a lot of like propriety and proper behavior kind of stuff going on, like we do things by the book here, especially if you're a woman ruler in a male society. You gotta avoid all those.
That's the impression I had, but then you see her in armor hunting, and I'm like, oh, maybe she's not such a severe religious woman as I thought. Maybe she's a little
it is interesting, isn't
complex.
It? So we'll see. That's a good point to bring up there.
Guys, what is her personality?
She might very well be one of those characters that pulls off the one episode yet gets cosplayed a lot. Character.
Yeah.
Oh, with that armor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like a nice, like, short-haired brunette woman wearing some armor. Like, yeah, she's gonna be popular.
It's hair that a lot of people can do without a wig.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That's nice. Yeah.
Something tells me, speaking of Libras, my wife Salsa Stark, she's gonna probably cosplay it.
I will
She could
say
totally do
that I am actually doing a cosplay group with Salsa Stark. She's doing Rhea Royce in our cosplay group, whereas I'm gonna do Mizari. We're doing a whole like House of the Dragon thing. I was like, we needed a Rhea Royce, and we've got Elena.
Beautiful women nerding out.
Alicia, a casting director position perhaps is in your future.
Yeah, I know. You just got the eye for it. Exactly.
I'm practically psychic. So.
Nice. So let's talk about Driftmark. Driftmark is going to look a lot cooler than the Vale, I'm thinking. The Vale's going to look pretty cool, but the Driftmark will probably put it to shame, which is really something because the Vale's pretty beautiful. So the treasures, more sea snake treasures. My question in the document was, will we see more sea snake treasures? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? This thing on screen, I found out what it is. It's like an ammonite, which is...
Oh wait, is that the thing with all the holes? Like,
no, this is the big conch looking shell. The whole thing, the barnacles is what we're calling the whole thing. But
okay, because that like sets off my like tryptophobia. I cannot do the little.
Absolutely, I know exactly. Yes.
So this thing, these are real. Apparently, I don't know if this one probably doesn't represent a real one, but in prehistoric times, these things did get like 6 foot long. So this is probably about the size of a real one on Earth would have been, many millions of years ago. So that's pretty sweet. I think that looks awesome. But it's such a strange thing to be sitting there. It looks like is that something from the sea, or was that a manufactured item of gold and lapis, or I don't know what that is, but that's just so cool. I'm just gonna stare at it.
What I do know is that I think this is a cut scene from MTV's Cribs. He's showing off. Yes, Alisha.
Sorry, I'm going to keep raising my hand from now on, because if I don't raise my hand, I cut off at the most annoying moments. I think that we are meant to really wonder about all this stuff, because isn't one of the spinoffs that's slated I don't want to say spinoff, but part of the GURM extended
successor
universe. Successor show.
Yeah.
So I can see, just for now, just kind of whetting our appetite, leaving it in the unknown, and then get us interested in the sea snake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I was I believe it was in the interview he did with Tony, Steve Toussaint, actor that plays Corlys, mentioned how he asked like about the different objects and like a backstory for them.
Cool.
Very
which I thought was really interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, we had asked Ryan Condal about Jaehaerys' throne, because we had a little headcanon theory that Corlys had brought the throne back for Jaehaerys and was like a power behind the throne. And he said no, but I wish I hadn't asked.
We
I just
would've
kept it as my headcanon. I was really hoping that we were seeing some of that, but then shortly afterwards, we have continued to see more of Corlys's awesome loot from his travels.
The Driftwood Throne is less fancy, but super awesome. It's got carvings on it. Like, it's hard to make out what's on those carvings. There's definitely carvings there, and you wonder if like some of them are different planks from different things that were pieced together, because obviously it's piecemeal, like one arm is different than the other, you know. But it's still it's funny that it projects this majesty while also being kind of like a little bit janky, you know, because it's a bunch of different pieces. But that's part of why it's so cool, because it's like you imagine this different pieces were taken from like fancy ships from
I mean, I wouldn't call it janky. It doesn't stab Corlys like the Iron Throne stabs Viserys, so I would say it's a far superior seat. Yeah, Alisha.
I like it because it's big, started from the bottom, now we hear vibes.
Nice. Yes. Like literally driftwood brought to the top. Yeah, that's awesome. Perfect. Yeah, and then there's the natural beauty of the place. I'm sure we'll get plenty more treasures, but we just have the outdoor shots as well. Laenor and Rhaenyra are going to have a beach walk. I guess this is before the wedding, or... Yeah, it has to be before the wedding, because the wedding is at King's Landing.
Yes, this is before
at Driftmark. So look at that. That is
so we will get
beautiful.
A nice chat between them, where I'm thinking / hoping that it'll be clear to Rhaenyra that Laenor is gay. That they will talk about things here, and I really don't want it to be some like terrible shock for Rhaenyra. I would prefer it if they enter this eyes wide open, as it were.
Yeah, and it was set up pretty well for that, right? Like, knowing Daemon tells her that, you know, marriages can just be political, and then you just do whatever you want on the side, which I'm kind of figuring that's what they've been telling Laenor, too. Like, he's like, I don't want to, I'm not into her. It's like, yeah, dude, but you got to keep that under wraps. Just, it's politics. Just marry her, and then you keep hanging out with Joffrey or whatever you want to do. So I kind of figure like the same conversations that he's been having, he's been having with his family as well.
Well, I'll let you go, Alisha, too, and also pose the question. I think it's a fine place for it. I don't know where it is in the doc, but do we think that Rhaenyra and Harwin are together as of this beach walk? That's my question for you.
When does that start?
Is Rhaenyra going into this beach walk like already with a guy on the side, or what? Or does she decide like, okay, like my husband's gay, so I'm gonna find a man after the beach walk? So there's my question for both of you.
Alisha, you can go first, and I'll say my thoughts.
I kind of like the idea of her finding out that he's gay on the beach without necessarily having Harwin off to the side, because last week she seemed to really come into her own sense of sexuality, even if she didn't always go about it appropriately. So I kind of like the idea of like the wedding going so poorly and her being so sick of Daemon and so sick of Kristen Cole that's what drives her into Harwin's arms.
Yeah.
There's definitely signs of that.
You're a mind reader.
That's a really good idea. Yeah. Go ahead, Arah. Tell us your take.
I was going to say this very similar thought that I'm hoping this beach scene is them just being very transparent with each other. So like after he not admits, but if he, you know, tells her like, hey, I have a lover that happens to be the same sex as me. And she's like, well, I had sex with my Kingsguard. So like, hey, but since it does look like from the trailer, it looks like a Dothraki style wedding, which is very interesting. So I'm wondering, maybe in the mayhem of it all, she maybe gets a little hot and bothered, and Harwin whisks her away to her room, and she's like, want to come inside? And then he's like, hell yeah. And then
so you're saying on her wedding night, Rhaenyra and Harwin are gonna get busy.
That's turning
on
it
the
up
wedding
a
night
notch.
Itself, potentially.
That sounds possible.
Could be, because if Joffrey dies, if Joffrey dies, Laenor's not going to want to.
No,
he is not going to want to consummate.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And it does seem like Joffrey will die, and they will not have been bedded yet. So that's a very good point.
He's got to like force himself to sleep with someone he's not attracted to, that he's not oriented towards, the day his lover is killed. Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't thought of that. That's really, really strong. Pun not intended, but we'll roll with it. We'll roll with it anyway. Yeah, look at that face. He is being beaten to death. I think there's that other scene where Kristen Cole is pummeling someone from like very early trailers. This scene's been around since the first teaser, basically. And there's also a scene that was revealed very, very early of while Rhaenyra is dancing with Laenor during the wedding, she's making eyes with Kristen, and it's from Kristen's point of view. So I think they haven't had their falling out just yet, but I think it's coming. And so
well,
what
I
you're
think
saying
it's happened
makes
on his end.
It may have happened on his end, and she doesn't realize it. That would make sense. I could see that.
What if he walks in on her and Harwin?
Whoa.
Well, here's a food for thought that in the trailer here I have on the screen, there was a scene released where Rhaenyra and Harwin are dancing together at the wedding, and Daemon cuts in on Harwin to dance with Rhaenyra. So they clearly are close enough that they're dancing.
He's like, may I cut in? He's like, of course, my prince, and walks off.
But so whether that's before or after Rhaenyra and Harwin have progressed their relationship, unclear.
And since Laenor, and this is another small change from the books. Well, I guess it's not a small change from the books. It's different than the books. In the books, everyone knows Laenor's gay already. Like, the council talks about it when they're setting them. Like, well, this is a problem. Melis is like, don't worry about it. He'll still sire heirs. It's like a Renly thing, They're like, he'll still do it. Don't worry about it, y'all. Of course, that's not how it goes, but at the time they know about it. Here, it's under wraps that Laenor's orientation. So I think what they're going to do, not only are they going to maybe have Rhaenyra figure it out on the beach walk or have that come out, maybe he'll just say it, but Daemon would know because Daemon was on the Stepstones with Laenor for several years, which is not what book canon showed us because Laenor wasn't on the Stepstones at all in book canon. So he may have he probably saw Joffrey and Laenor like share a tent, and he's like, okay, well those two were together, and so he knew. Yeah, Alisha.
I think we all have such fatigue about the way Game of Thrones treated Loris's orientation.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm really hoping Ryan Condal does a much better job of giving Laenor so much more dimension than just who he loves. I'm really, really hoping and rooting for a genuine, best friendship between Rhaenyra and Laenor. And I think that would really flesh them both out quite a bit.
That would be a cool twist. Like, they're friends, they're not in love with each other, not attracted to each other, but they're actually partners and allies. Yeah.
Because he really does. He really does seem unbothered by the true siring of her children. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't in Fire and Blood one of the children for one of the children's births, Harwin and Laenor are both in the delivery room. When Rhaenyra is giving birth. So also, I've said this on Direwolf City, I really want my Laena, Daemon, Rhaenyra throuple. I need that for my spirit. So I feel like they're just going to be one big, happy, loving family that, they just swap partners every now and then, and it's okay with everyone. And that's what I would like. Am I going to get that? Probably not, but I can dream.
But we see it could work. It could work.
It could work. I'm like, I might not get it explicitly on screen, but I will be happy if I get a version of that to where I can headcanon it to be no, they were all cool with each other. I want to see the scene of Daemon and Laena and Rhaenyra hanging out so that I can extrapolate from there.
Yeah, racing their dragons and just chilling together and partying on Dragonstone. Driftmark.
That would be such a fun. That would be such a fun sequence to just see them enjoying life as dragon riders together, and that would be so satisfying.
The good times before the bad times. I would gotta have the good times to set up the bad times being worse.
I agree.
See what we lost. We already got Rhaenyra and Alicent's friendship falling apart, and Viserys and Daemon's falling apart. Yeah, you gotta have more of that.
I know you're right though. If they want us to be sad about Laena, they have to set it up for us to care about Laena and the people who care about her. So I hope we'll get some good scenes with her.
So
I'm worried the 10-year. Oh,
you go ahead. You go.
I'm worried the 10-year time jump is gonna open up with Laena's funeral.
Yes,
I think that's likely, and not unlikely. Of course, if they have some time with her, maybe not the first scene, but I am worried about that too, that a lot of her will be skipped over. The thing is, they can't skip it entirely because there's an older actress. She has to at least appear once.
Or she has to just, her corpse appears, but strictly speaking,
right.
I have that same fear. I have some hope that we will see an episode of her as a mother. A mother and a wife and a friend. We will see Nana Blondell as the woman playing older Laena. That I have some hope that we'll see her in action, because we already seems like we had some Lena stuff cut that we might have seen, but maybe some stuff will be added in deleted scenes as well.
Yeah, definitely. I really wonder too. We have actually just a few small changes to mention from Fire and Blood, just to keep track of it. And these are not huge changes. Lena is older than Laenor in book canon, but they swapped that. I think we've mentioned that before, but it's coming more clear now.
I thought they made them
Yeah, I
twins
think
in
they
the
are.
show.
Yeah, they're like I think they are twins.
Oh, they're actual
twins.
twins?
I think they're twins.
Oh,
in the show.
In the show.
I think in the show they
But
made them
like,
twins
yes, they changed
instead.
the age. But
I
yeah.
thought she just looked when they were sitting together.
She looks so tiny.
She looks so
next to him.
smaller,
She
but I
looked
guess
older.
that's just she's just smaller.
Yeah, they're
okay.
just. Yeah,
All right,
I
missed
think
that.
that was what I understood as well, was that they were twins, which sets up the fact that Lena's gonna have
has
twins
twins.
later with Bela
Mhm.
and Rhaena. It's like they run in the
Right.
family, so it's not an abnormal thing to do.
And another this follows along another change where it was actually Laenor and Viserys were the two finalists at the Great Council, not Laenor's mother, Rhaenys, and Viserys. But that's also a good change because it sets up the female ruler dichotomy that's so crucial to the show. So we talked about Lena claiming Vhagar a little bit off and on here. We talked about maybe there's a chance. I think this was before we started recording, y'all. We mentioned that maybe Vhagar was in these trailer shots and they just scrubbed him or her so that we wouldn't be spoiled that way.
And by
Entirely
scrubbed, we
possible.
mean that they can just not have the CGI dragon in a shot of the dragons and edit it in later. That's been the case for lots of big budget things where they just change the trailers so that we can be tricked.
Yeah. Very common trick.
Yeah, I learned that from Marvel. the hard way.
Yes. Yeah,
Alisha.
Alisha.
Speaking of things that we discussed before we started airing, we did talk about how the way that the dragons are spaced out looks a little bit weird if they didn't scrub Vhagar. But I love the idea of Vhagar just looming over them as kind of foreshadowing for how formidable Vhagar is as a weapon of mass destruction.
Mhm.
So something that just seems really innocent, like, oh, that's a big ASS dragon.
You know what else that would set up?
And
Vhagar is going to come down on Meleys, which is that dragon right there at Rook's Rest. So, yikes. Scary.
That's true.
Good call, Alicia. Wow.
You guys gonna take out his
Yeah,
mother's
just now I was looking for
dragon? Yeah.
shadows. Are there any shadows of another dragon above them there?
Yeah, I know. Yes.
Go ahead, Arah.
I would just really like to see Lena maybe like arrive, like do like a really dramatic entrance on Vhagar.
Yes.
Man, that
I
would be cool.
just would really like. I can imagine maybe like Rhaenys on Meleys, and Laenor and Seasmoke maybe arriving a little bit sooner since it is his wedding, and then maybe she's like escorting more of those Velaryon ships on Vhagar. I don't know. I just wanted to make this really big dramatic entrance so then Viserys can sit there and just be like, I could have married her. Huh?
All those ships look so boss. Those galleons, those are fancier than any ship we've seen, I think, on previous iterations of Game of Thrones, any other season.
No, I do want Lena
That
to
does
just
look like a
roll
shadow
up.
in the upper left.
Oh yeah,
The upper
yeah.
left, that does look like a shadow.
But no, I would love to see Lena show up like, what up? Last you heard from me, I was talking about Vhagar. Now look what I'm riding. Because we also talked about this before the stream, that seems that there was a scene cut of Lena taming Vhagar. That was part of some leaks before the season that it would be shown, and we haven't seen it. And so perhaps that was just cut. Perhaps we'll see it in deleted scenes, and that remains to be seen.
Maybe it was just bumped to this episode.
The bonus material is about to keep us.
Yeah, there's some good bonus scenes.
Yeah.
We already know of a couple of good bonus scenes that we'll hopefully get, like like Rhaenyra and Alicent's wedding and Viserys. That would be a good one. That was the first one we heard of, I suppose, but I'm much more interested in seeing Vhagar. Everyone wants Vhagar.
Yeah, I would have loved to see her taming Vhagar, especially as a comparison to Aemon taming Vhagar, to see how different their process was, what that experience was like for each of them.
Yeah, that little jerk.
But you know what, though? In the trailer, there is, and I think we can all agree, it's Vhagar's legs that are kind of like, it might, Vhagar's grand introduction might be when Aemond claims him, just so that we can see the vast scale of how huge and formidable she is. So I don't And that's just a theory of mine, so I don't know which way they're going to do it. So I'm kind of conflicted in how I think they're going to introduce Vhagar.
Well, I think we have seen in one of the previews before the season, I do think we saw like a shot of Laena on Vhagar. But again, with how much they've cut things, even when we see like behind the scenes, we can't know for sure if they've cut it completely when I think about it more.
I'm just gonna boo that because I need to see Laena on Vhagar.
Yes.
Like I need it personally.
Yes. I think I need it too. One character I'm curious about that is wrapped up in this whole situation, who was mentioned off screen and might be relevant, or should be relevant, is the Sea Lord of Braavos' son, who Laena's first betrothed. Never actually gets married. We don't see him in this scene, I don't think.
No, we see, I have the dais pulled up with all the Velaryons, and the guy next to Laena is Vaemond Velaryon, would be her uncle, would be Corlys's brother, I believe. And on the dais, you also see Rhaenys, Corlys, Laenor, Rhaenyra, Viserys, and then in the most interesting side of the table, Alicent, Lionel, and Daemon, which like I'm dying to know what that conversation is like between those three.
It's not maybe they should have thought about that seating arrangement.
But also, I really like the idea that look like Daemon's at one head of the table and just looking straight at Laena.
He's like, hello.
Like they are literally facing each other across the table. Yeah. So I imagine there'll be lots of good making eyes at people.
So it just a quick mention. We'll talk about them a little more later. It's pretty straightforward now that Lionel has been promoted to Hand of the King. That's from Fire and Blood. We saw that coming. He was giving good advice, so that was set up pretty well. And now that he's sitting at the high table where the Hand of the King belongs, and he's got the Hand of the King.
But so we were theorizing before the episode, like maybe the Sea Lord of Braavos is invited to the wedding. Of course he would be like his son, rather not the Sea Lord of Braavos, the Sea Lord's son, which that would make sense. We don't see him, but I think it would be quite dramatic and fun if, in the heat of everyone fighting here, Daemon just like offs the Sea Lord of Braavos' son, like, and so we actually have him killing Laena's betrothed. Like I think it's
rather than a duel,
and that's how we get our Dothraki wedding. Is we got Joffrey dead, we got like Sea Lord of Braavos' son, like
and someone else. Yeah, it'll be
someone
one.
Else. Yeah,
there's an easy sneak another one in there. Somehow.
It's gonna be a red shirt Riverland.
Yeah. Because we do see that it is more than just two people that are involved in this fight.
Like Laenor gets face slammed into the table by two men. Like two men grab him and slam Laenor into the table. Like, what is going on here? Like,
Joffrey's involved, Kristen's involved, and notably Harwin is punching someone. Yeah. So like
Harwin kind of strikes me as Gaston when he just like randomly jumps into a fight because it's fun. Yeah, I can see that.
He just
we see this shot.
Right.
Yeah, we see the shot here, and it's just like a bunch of people are just like, "Hey, we fighting? Let's get involved."
Corlys is like, "I don't even know how to begin to deal with this."
I did notice though, one of the men that's shoving Laenor into the table is wearing this red tunic that's extremely similar to the red tunic that's in front of Rhaenyra when she's looking up and she's looking really frightened.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of...
Are those Lannisters?
I have my theories about who Kristen's punching.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the musicians also wear very similar color tunics.
You're right.
And the only reason why I know that is because there's a musician that looks kind of familiar.
It's a mushroomish looking musician, isn't it?
Yeah. Put him on
You think that all the fighting like starts out with two people and then it turns into mass chaos because it's like you bumped into me, well you bumped into me, well you bumped into me, and it just that would be silly, but also let the bloodletting begin.
It's set up pretty well by all the tension in these other scenes where people just start fighting. Like like at the tournament, some people thought that was a little odd. But
it's like, well, that's where things are in Westeros right now. Like it was setting that up, perhaps like the tourney.
Bottled up tensions.
They're so hungry for battle that it takes.
Just takes nothing.
Slightest provocation, and I guess we're gonna maybe get multiple provocations at this wedding. A lot of grievances are gonna come out. I mean, I think some of Rhaenyra and Alicent's issues may come out there too. Yeah. It's unclear how much they'll get to address each other. If Alicent's going to arrive at the wedding having not spoken to Rhaenyra since finding out she lied to her. So the tension will be they won't have had time to like talk it. Not that talking will necessarily solve anything, but she'll just be shooting daggers from her eyes at Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra's gonna be like, I don't know what's going on. I didn't know you found out about me.
For good reasons. Rhaenyra's gonna be like, this is supposed to be a happy day in my life. Why are you coming with all this drama right now? I know. No, I do
Question
think
for
that.
You guys.
Yes.
With we saw in the like in the previews, Herbert.
Yeah, Hobart.
Hobart, yeah.
Hobart.
Hobart.
You gotta say it the French way. Hobart.
Hightower. Him.
Yeah.
I wonder. So we know how he was in Otto's ear a lot.
Yeah.
Sure
Obviously,
was.
his other brother. I wonder if at the wedding he's going to be in his niece's ear.
Ooh.
Since Otto wasn't going to be invited, I'm wondering if he's going to be in her ear and maybe or like pass along a message from her father. Something
That's
like
a good point.
That is a good idea. And, it makes me think as well about Otto and Daemon have a lot in common here. Like, they both got this older brother that they're, like, justifying themselves to and doing things for. Just throwing that out there.
As the younger sibling of I only have one sibling and I am the younger one. It's real. Okay. I'm just going to say it's real.
Weddings are always a good time in Westeros, right? Have we had a wedding on a Game of Thrones show that didn't have like real crazy stuff happen? Like poisonings, murders, just people fights breaking out.
I mean,
Rob Stark
was the closest.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
If they hadn't cut Viserys and Alicent, that scene with them, that's why they cut it. Perhaps is that it wasn't dramatic enough.
Just an
Yeah,
argument.
You're right.
That's
It wasn't
enough.
fitting a theme.
Yeah.
I think the only exceptions are when people elope.
Oh yeah.
So maybe not actual like wedding ceremonies, you know, but yeah.
But yeah, like I guess we saw like Rhaegar and Lyanna just in front of the tree or whatever in the show.
That's true. Yeah,
Rob
you're right.
Stark.
The elopings are different. That's a good point.
Elopes.
They usually have colors, right? Red wedding, purple wedding, golden wedding. This is two. This is replacing the tournament in Fire and Blood where the blacks and the greens make their debut in those colors. I don't know that we're seeing the black coloring here.
Yeah.
We definitely see Alicent in her green coloring, so this is like a minor version of that.
Yes.
I think they'll do it later after the time jump.
Yeah, quite possibly.
appears
This is
that
maybe
way.
the establishing. This is the establishing shot. Alicent brings on the greens.
Her green dress here is one of my favorites she's worn. I just have it on the screen. I just have to shout it out. I'm like, it's so pretty. I like this deep V that she has. It's like, damn, Alicent being a little sexy at the wedding.
Notice too,
I
she
do love
was
the
wearing
cleavage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if it used to belong to her mom.
Oh yeah, another one of those that belonged to her
Yeah,
mom.
you're right.
That's a
You're
good
right.
call.
That's a mother dress.
And she was notably wearing Targaryen colors last time.
Yeah.
So that she had switched to red and black.
Yeah, no,
now
they set it up very well for this to be a political statement. Otherwise, you might just be like, that's just her color. She wears greens and blue. Like, who cares? But no, like, she's been wearing red.
She's also going to be mad about her dad being kicked out. Like,
Yeah.
she's upset with that. Especially, it's going to turn out that she lied for her friend, and that lie helped get Otto kicked out. So she by standing up for her friend, her dad gets kicked out. So that's not. She's probably not going to be happy about that. Even though doesn't have the best relationship with him. She'd rather have him there than not, I think, because he's still her champion, even though he pushed her into this wedding.
Part of the symbolism, too, I think, I won't lie to you, when she first started wearing red, I was like, look at her. But then I came to realize, like, no, that's her doing her duty, playing her part, and also trying to find her new identity in the Targaryen family. And I think once she realizes how rejected it is, not just by Rhaenyra, but just how trapped she feels. Her father was, fired. She's alone at court. That's when she decides to take up the green again and just really come into herself. So I think that's where the color flip comes in.
Very good take. Yeah. And then, of course, that's also going to help set up her becoming tight. Not sexually, obviously, but tight with Kristen Cole, who switches sides because she's going to need new allies. It's going to come right when she's lost her father. She's going to be like, oh, well, now I can have Otto. I mean, not Otto. I can have Otto replaced by Kristen Cole, that's what we see in the trailer. He's coming forward and drawing his sword, and it's spliced with the wedding, so it kind of looks like it's a violent moment, but it has nothing to do with the wedding. This is almost certainly him coming in to lay his sword at her feet.
Yeah, because you can't see the back of Alicent's head and her ladder style dress that she's wearing there.
So presumably he's been rejected. They've had their falling out. Maybe he tried to do the thing where he offers for them to run away together. And gets rejected for that.
Yeah.
So
Alicent's
going to find out about a lot all at once. She's
so
going to
yeah,
find out. It's going to be a ton of bricks hitting her all at once when Kristen Cole comes in and tells her that.
Go ahead.
Alisha.
Do you think this is a scene that they get together and they put two and two together about?
I feel like it's gonna be like a comedy of of unintentional reveals kind of situation where like she asks him a question and he thinks she means that, you know, and then he accidentally like reveals like we slept together. Like he thinks she knows. He doesn't know about the Daemon thing. She thinks she's you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's a lot of room for some humor in that scene. Maybe not for them themselves, but for us as the viewer to be like, no, they don't realize what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like that's what I expect, I guess, is like because like I again, if we think like Alicent's going into this thinking like, well, maybe Rhaenyra did sleep with Daemon, and then like if Kristen just like accidentally reveals what actually happened, Alicent is still going to feel betrayed. And she might also think the Daemon thing happened too, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she might think that Rhaenyra like really had a night.
Yeah. I'm wondering if Kristen and Alicent getting together is kind of like two like spurned lovers, like two exes.
Yeah.
Like Rhaenyra's exes getting
friend,
together out of their
ex-lover, yeah.
mutual.
Yeah, it's kind of
like,
it's like the Mean Girls burn book type thing, you know? Like, they've got this like deep-seated like real reason to be upset with Rhaenyra. So they think, you know, like again, it's all in their perspective, but like if I was in Alicent's shoes or Kristen's shoes, yeah, I would be like, this chick is burned in my book. Like she's blacklisted. We're done. Like she's gone too far. And like as a viewer, again, I can say no, Rhaenyra didn't do it like that, like what you think. But I don't think there's any coming back from like she did lie to Alicent. So why would Alicent believe her about anything going forward?
She swore on her mother's grave. I mean, yeah, she's just
like,
not going to which Alicent would take an oath like that more seriously than Rhaenyra does.
Yeah, because like I don't know. I mean, I think Rhaenyra lied and knows that she lied. I know that there's been debate in the fandom, but like she said, Daemon didn't touch her. Like even if she didn't lie about the fact that they had sex, that like.
He touched her.
Yeah,
There's
like
no
I think
getting around that.
I think Rhaenyra has enough guilt over it that she should realize, like, hey, maybe don't swear on my mother's memory when I say that.
What's interesting too is she's upset. Part of her frustration, Alicent's frustration, she just doesn't really like the whole incest stuff that Targaryens do in the first place. But she's clearly going to come around on that. There's a scene from in the future where she's apparently on her knees trying to convince Viserys, like, you can rebuild the House of the Dragon. I think this is her pitching Aegon marrying Helena to Viserys, which is going to have to be like right now. That would be hard for Alicent to do something like that, but she's going to come around on it somehow.
I'm super curious how they're going to play that. Right? Go ahead.
I also think Alicent is in love with Rhaenyra.
Yes.
So I think that has a huge part to play in it. Not just jealousy about. I think there's jealousy about the life that Rhaenyra gets to live.
Yes.
But I also think that that's where some of those sapphic undertones that Emily talked about are coming into play.
Yeah, like I think Alicent is just like so repressed and dutiful and
Very
faithful that I don't think she's as aware of it. Whereas like I get strong sapphic vibes from Alicent, whereas I get those same vibes from Rhaenyra, but in a way where like Rhaenyra could have happened on Rhaenyra's end, whereas I don't think Alicent would ever have let like herself fall to her urges. You know what I mean? Whereas like I feel like Rhaenyra could have like they could kiss one night and Rhaenyra would be fine and Targaryen privilege and would not be super beaten up about it. You know, like she wouldn't feel haunted, whereas like Alicent would be like gay torturer on the inside over like, what am I doing? Like this is so bad. Like that's my impression.
Alicent will join the Silent Sisters. I feel like that she's like, I just have to commit myself to the faith now. I can't.
Yeah.
But they have done a really good job of without throwing it in your face, they're establishing that she puts a lot of value in her faith to the faith, because a lot of this, because I used to be a very conservative Christian, so this scene kind of gave me a bit of religious trauma. That scene between Alicent and Rhaenyra hits the nail on the head of what it's like to lose your virginity and one of your conservative Christian friends finding out about it. Just like, why are you angry? How is this your business? Like that,
wow.
You know? So
interesting.
Yes.
flip side, speaking of like religions within Westeros, what I think is very interesting is a lot of these important conversations are happening in front of the heart tree, like in front of the werewood.
True that. Very
I'm like,
true.
Bran and Bloodraven have quite a TV show to watch. I love picturing.
It's like a soap opera.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of, there is a scene with Larry Strong speaking to Alicent in front of the heart tree.
Yeah.
That is potentially, this one's like, whoa, what's this all about? At this point, she's still wearing the red and black, so I think she maybe hasn't learned the secret yet. She hasn't talked to, this is like probably right as her father has been fired.
Yeah, no, I think Laris is spreading some tea here. You know, maybe,
he's already
maybe
making
literally,
moves.
like maybe literally he is like, hey, look at what Rhaenyra has been doing that I found out. Like, I don't think, I don't know, I do not trust Laris.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
Right for you, rightfully so.
In our most recent stream, that there's a lot of shots where it looks like it's like from the perspective of somebody watching a lot of these events unfold.
I think we were kind of just so that it didn't show Millie's actual breasts.
Oh, not even just that. There's like a couple other ones like I've noticed, like going back on rewatches, it's like
someone's watching from, I got that vibe too. I wasn't sure what to make of that either. I was like,
not even just that scene. There's like a couple other scenes that are similar to that.
Maybe they're just setting that up, and then like later it will be someone. But this time it's just the camera, but this next time it'll be a person. I'm not sure. But in general, the idea with Rhea Royce in canon, Rhea Royce, it was an accident. She died. But that's the kind of thing. Like if someone successfully pulls off a murder and doesn't get caught, the history's going to write it like it was an accident. They don't know it was a murder. That's the point of a really good secret, is it doesn't make it into the histories. If you pull off your intrigue properly, they don't get written about. So Larry Strong, that's the room the show is going to have to do, is going to make up its own version of events where we see the intrigue that really did happen that didn't make the history books. Rhea Royce is a small example of that. Larry Strong's entire character is an example of that. Like, there's going to be a ton of things I think he does, or it might be responsible for. I think the show will keep some of that ambiguity, but we're going to be like, if there's the number one candidate is Larry Strong, it's always this, he's the guy, like the usual suspects. It's going to be him. So I'm excited.
He's going to be like the new Blame It on Bloodraven. It's Blame It on Larry's.
Yes.
Totally.
I do think that whether it's for sneaky, nefarious purposes or whether it's genuine and it's unfortunately not serving other people in the story, I think he is kind of going to her and telling her, like, hey, I notice you don't have a friend left to you at court. I'm a friend.
Yep. Yeah,
like I'll be your friend.
Just because my father is taking your father's place doesn't mean you and I can. He's like, etc.
Like, I mean, we have more in common than you think.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, I think back to that scene with when we saw Laurie sitting at the little women's court there. Like, Alicent was like, oh, have you met, Laurie's, Lionel Strong's son? She was friendly with him there. So they have a little bit of a connection already.
All right, let's take a couple of questions and we'll get right back to it. We still got several things to discuss. We'll call this our midpoint. It's probably a little past that, but whatever.
Yeah, that's fine.
Super chat from Nancy Groth. Doesn't, I don't know. Was that a question from her? That is her question.
That's
She says, Rhaenyra opened her disguise bag. She smelled the clothes. She knew it was Daemon's smell of dragon before she saw the note. That's a good point. The smell. Maybe it did smell like dragon. I didn't catch that.
And then she sees the Valyrian writing and is like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure.
That's a very good catch. I appreciate that take.
That was a good idea.
Good job, Nancy. Stannis Baratheon says, is it strange that Alicent and Rhaenyra don't have any ladies in waiting?
And yes, I would say I think it is.
Yeah.
They kind of set it up for them to seem like they had them, because if you remember at the tourney scene, there were other women sitting, like they weren't alone there. But no, I do think that was a complaint for Game of Thrones, and I think it's valid complaint here as well. Like, I mean, just think about who does their hair, who helps them get dressed, like who's hanging out with them, who's all these like a million little things.
I think how little Marjorie had. She had like a ton. She had a whole cadre, like a whole
yeah. You're right. They did do it well with Marjorie and showing like her squatting up. But
yeah, I guess that's not the case here. It's just a different court, I guess, is what we just have to write it off as that. There's a really good go ahead, Arah.
No, I was gonna say that it is a bit odd, but one thing I do like that they have been doing is showing the rushes on the floors. Like you see a lot in Storm's End and kind of in the Red Keep a little bit, saw it a lot in the Storm's End scenes.
Yeah, that's
that was a
realistic.
nice touch.
I do like that too. Yeah, they have done a good job of adding some of those small touches of realism.
Jasike points out Alicent was Rhaenyra's lady in waiting, but until she got with Viserys. So and we did actually see Alicent helping Rhaenyra get dressed and stuff like that, and vice versa. I suppose in the cut scene we saw Rhaenyra helping Alicent. But I would like to just see more ladies milling about. The princess, like the heir, the princess, like of all people should have a court, a crew.
A couple of comments from prior episodes or during the week. Joshua Adams pointed out that we were talking about pug noses and pugs, rather. We're talking about the pugs. And he remembered that in Fire and Blood, Rhaenyra's strong boys have pug noses. That's how they're described. Actual pug noses. That's hilarious. So I don't know if that's what they had in mind with that scene, showing the pug with Rhaenyra near Rhaenyra, but either way, that's pretty funny that it lines up like that. So her children three of her children, her first three, will have pug noses in Fire and Blood. They probably will. I don't think those actors have pug noses, though. So that's probably not actually happening. We're joking about Rhaenyra's favorite uncle and how she doesn't really have other uncles. We forgot her uncle-in-law. She has Gwaine. Gwaine Hightower is her uncle-in-law, technically. Thank you, Betrayed King, for pointing that out. The one who
step-uncle, I guess, is really the word, right?
Yeah. So Daemon fought him, like jousted with him. So that was uncle versus uncle, technically. That's funny. John Hagee caught the mention of the phrase skin trade, which was used by Mizaria. George R. Martin has a book called Skin Trade, so that may have been a nod to that book. It was one of his short stories. It is a werewolf novel, short story, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm crossing it up with one of his other short stories, but I have read it. I clearly have forgotten which is which.
You have read it? I have read it too. I'm on my phone.
Reddit, yeah. A lot of people use Reddit, yeah. Reddit's popular, yes.
We have here, sincerely ... says, there was a woman who came to wake Alicent when the king asked for her in the middle of the night. That's and true. Yeah, but that was more of like a maid, servant level, whereas we're speaking more to like an actual noble lady in waiting. But yeah, like she does have helpers, you're right. Yeah.
One important character who she's important, is Rhaenys, and she is consistently been on top of what's going on with the politics. She's the true seer. Like, she's like, well, this is what's really going to happen. And some of it's a little self-serving, like when she's telling Rhaenyra, like, yeah, my kid is going to take your spot. But but she's also not wrong that, when she says things like men would rather see put the realm to the torch than see a woman ascend the Iron Throne. There's several scenes or cut scenes or screenshots of her speaking with someone. There's one where she's talking to Lionel Strong. Which is like, I wonder what they're talking about there. There's lots of possibilities. There's things that could pass between them. I have no idea where to begin. Any thoughts on what might be said between these two? I'm really not sure.
Maybe Rhaenys is telling him, hey, good job being an actual smart person in this council, because apparently everybody else is stupid. But
he pushes for this wedding, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he not only pushed for this wedding, he pushed for her daughter to be wed to Viserys. Like, he's the only one that seems to be actually giving sound counsel that isn't super self-serving.
Yeah, that's a good point. So maybe we find out that they've been in communication or something.
Yeah, it looks like they arrive to there, and Rhaenys grabs some cups and says like, "Cheers! Thanks for making this happen, man." Is my impression. I think
they would at least be grateful.
Or maybe they both don't like Otto.
It makes sense to me why that Lionel would not be a fan of Otto, considering he wanted his job. So
so there's another shot of Rhaenys. Go ahead, Alisha.
Go ahead.
I can see it as her own little power move, because from the stills, it doesn't really look like she talks to Viserys directly. So I can see her going up to Larys and being like, quiet, let the adults talk. And her personally going straight to him to have this discussion and just being like, to Viserys.
Talk to the guy who knows what's up, yeah. There's also
I imagine Rhaenys looks at Viserys and is like, "You look rough."
Yeah, bro. What
Right.
is
This is
happening
not
to you?
life has not
she's
treated you
looking
well.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
well, it's like, while I'm out here riding my dragon, just living my best life. We're the richest house in Westeros. Being away from politics has been nice, actually. She says,
Good for the skin.
Yeah. She says, knives will come out at Rhaenyra's ascension. She says that to her husband. She's like, okay, well, we're marrying. We're taking this step to marry into this family. Well, that means we got to step up and protect this from happening, or to stop this. Of course, the knives come out a bit sooner than that. They come out at the wedding, well before the ascension. But still, she's not wrong, though. And that just shows that she's getting ahead of the game again. Alisha.
Yeah.
Do you think that might be her in the moment arguing against the match?
Interesting. Maybe. I don't know when. I can't recall what she's wearing when she says that, because that could help us clue into when it comes. But that's a good possibility. Yeah, maybe she's like, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe this is too dangerous. That's nice.
Can I say I do like her riding clothes and the fact that she receives the king in his hand and his heir and is like, I'm not changing.
I'm wearing my dragon rider clothes.
You're gonna smell the dragon stank on me. Like, I really appreciate that about her.
This is what a real dragon rider smells like. Yeah. Whiff it up.
Tell you, we were talking about like the most cosplayed outfits we're gonna see. We're talking about Rhea Royce. This Rhaenys riding outfit is gonna be a very popular one because it looks so comfy. Even
it's the travel cosplay. It's like the one you arrive in.
Yeah, that's your Thursday cosplay.
Or the one you leave in. Yeah.
You're the one, yeah. But like even me, I'm like, I don't want to rock the Rhaenys like predator hairstyle that she wears, you know, like the pointy head thing. I don't want to wear that, but like I want to wear the riding clothes, so I was tempted.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've said her hair looks like a xenomorph.
Yeah.
And someone commented on one of our YouTube videos and they're like, oh, Alicia's so nitpicky. Yeah. I'm like, it's a xenomorph.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, are we in sci-fi? No, and it's just so extreme. But I'm like, it's grown on me as it being like an iconic thing that she does. But I'm also like really looking forward to her doing some other hairstyles.
She's got a dragon egg hiding up there. That's like
she just carries one around all the time. Yeah,
we never know when you might need a dragon egg. You know, it's warm in there. You know, it's
you know, the bigger the hair, the closer to God.
Oh, and she is very godly to me. I agree. So,
God is a woman.
Also, on the topic of the strong, let's talk about the strongs a little more. Yeah, they're ascending. So we have the strong. We have Lionel coming up, replacing. We also have Larys and Harwin at the wedding.
Look! They're watching this Royce guy talk to Rhaenyra. That's
they're like, "Who is this Royce guy?" So they're wondering what's going on with Daemon. Maybe they overhear like this accusation, maybe of something. In Fire and Blood, Larry starts off as one of the king's confessors, and then moves up in the world when his father and brother die. So I suspect they're just going to skip that. He's just going to go straight to Master of Whispers. There isn't a Master of Whispers, so maybe now's the time to have one. We already got some setup with that last episode with the rise of Mysaria becoming like promoted instead of, sex worker, brothel runner. She's now, trading information, big move up. So now it's kind of the rise of the intriguers that have been kind of missing to this point, apparently on purpose, so they could kind of enter the game now. Alisha.
In the whole history of Westeros. I forget, has there before been a Master of Whispers before Mysaria and Lara Strong?
I think Tiana was.
Is it Tiana?
Yeah. That's right.
Exactly.
Yep.
I think she might be the only one.
She was a spider.
So maybe it wasn't a regular position. Maybe it was. This is still in that.
It'd be cool if they referenced her, if they're like, we haven't had one. So, there's little opportunities for them to just throw a name out there and just delight a whole subset of the fandom. Like, I think Ryan does realize that, like, we get really excited. Like, you don't have to give us a lot for us to, like, feast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Aegon the Conqueror had a Master of Whispers. We'll have to look that back up. Because his first council is listed in Fire and Blood and in the World of Ice and Fire, I think. So maybe we'll have to take a look. Maybe someone can pull that up real quick. But that's a good
Actually,
catch.
It's funny you mentioned like just the small little nods. Like them bringing up Joanna Swan was like the highlight of that episode for me. I was like, oh my gosh,
absolutely.
Or like the feast part when he's like, a feast for crows. Like Viserys says that, and I'm like, You know what to do.
You did. You did that. You did that for us.
So I gotta say, Uriah's Tosh, when I showed the picture of Harwin, and he goes, Breakbones looks like he is about the 38,000th strongest knight in the realm. Talk about bum casting on that one, but here's my correction. He's the strongest emotionally. He's like the strongest, like the most mature man in the realm.
His name is strong, so
yeah.
He looks stronger than his brother and his father, so he's the strongest strong. Yeah,
He's strongest strong.
But no, I did expect Harwin to be a lot beefier because not only do we get that description of Harwin, but like we get it in the show. They refer to him in the show as the strongest man, but he doesn't look very strong. So again. It's all mental.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised because I hate to bring this up as a parallel, but when I break up fights with my middle schoolers, it's the scrawny looking ones that are surprisingly strong. You know, and you're not expecting it. You're just like,
They got that. They got that intense strength. Yeah. Some of strength comes from wanting. from some strength does come from
that's God and anime on your side.
So one of they have done a good job overall of keeping the cast intact, even though there's been some cuts and some people cut, most or some combinings, and maybe some that we have yet to see. The law of conservation of characters that we coined back in Game of Thrones seems to be being used pretty sparingly. Yeah. One example of it, though, is Ormond Hightower is gone, and Hobart Hightower is folded into one character. If y'all remember, Ormond dies to Roddy the Ruin. So maybe Hobart will instead, or maybe just a different Hightower like Gwaine will, because Hobart's also the one who drinks the poison.
Hobart
drinks the poison to kill Ulf the White, Ulf le Blanc. Yeah,
the White.
Yeah. So something's got to give there. Hobart can't both be killed by Roddy the Ruin and drink himself to death with Ulf the White.
Well, what about Gwaine Hightower? Could one of the sons? Again, we only know that we have one brother of Alicent, but she had multiple, so there's room for there to be some other Hightowers.
Yeah, definitely. Roddy the Ruin cuts down Brynden Hightower, who's mentioned at no other time. So, which is so funny because he's a Bryndon, not a Brynden. He's the only Bryndon that we know of. And
because I believe Gwaine in the books was randomly cut down during the siege of King's Landing, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, it happened. It happened.
We've got to Casanova.
Aziz was trying to shoo him away.
Y'all
and I was
haven't
like,
asked
no.
us to say Irish wristwatch.
Oh, you're right.
Time.
We haven't.
And I am affronted.
You kind of fell off of doing that.
It's about time. Maybe we should.
Maybe this is a good time while I have this cat.
Okay, we'll start with Arah, who looks a little confused.
I'm scared.
Okay, so Arah.
No, this is a scared face. I'm like,
we require you to say Irish wristwatch 3 times fast.
Okay. Irish wristwatch. I barely got the first one out.
I've been waiting 8 years for this.
Okay, Alisha.
Okay,
Alisha.
Irish wristwatch, Irish wristwatch, Irish wristwatch.
Boom!
Woo!
Nailed it. Wow.
Okay.
That was impressive. I think only about one out of every 15 or 20 people get it that smoothly, if that. So
I've literally been practicing.
Well, let's hear you do it, Aziz.
Okay.
Irish wristwatch, Irish wristwatch, Irish wristwatch.
Wasn't very fast, but I'll accept it, I guess.
I did take space between. The space between is key. It's the starting over is when you get thrown. See, I've heard people mess it up so many times. I've sensed when the mistakes come. You gotta have this. You gotta have a plan.
Yeah, I had a little stint for a while where I would do different tongue twisters before a stream. I had like a list that I would go through of diction exercises where you say different ones like that. But I'm still not very good at Irish wristwatch as I fumble.
Were you a thespian in high school?
I did do drama class, but yeah, it was not something I got into doing the tongue twisters until we were doing the podcast because it really helped get the twists out of your tongue, as it were.
Yeah.
So let's see, what have we not talked about yet? I wonder too, like what's gonna be
Sorry, I had a quick question.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
Sorry. The law of conservation of characters.
Yeah.
I meant to bring something up before tongue twisters. I can't even say tongue twisters. Daeron.
Yeah.
Do we get him?
We get him.
I think so.
We get him.
Okay.
I'm
Sure?
no worries about, in
been
my
cast,
opinion.
okay.
Like he hasn't
I
been
was
cast. He's off
worried.
screen in Old Town.
Okay.
I'll just like straight up say, like, that's been the buzz, is that we will get that line eventually said, oh, Daeron's been born and now he's a page in Old Town with the High Towers.
Cool.
So like that's their way to not have to cast another young actor and introduce him, is to just put him off screen, and then we'll it makes sense to me in general, but that is what I've heard. I
wonder if we'll get Otto scheming with Hobart in Old Town. At some point we'll see any scenes with them together, or if Time Jump will just kind of cover it and we'll be pretty back to Otto.
Like, that's not a good sign for Daeron if he's being raised by Otto down there. No, Otto will be back in King's Landing.
Otto was
at that point.
Otto was in Lena's funeral scene. There's been shots of that.
Yeah.
And I don't think Lionel is. So I think
the switch has been made again. So
Yeah.
so Daeron is safe from Otto.
Yeah.
To be fair, Daeron's a good boy.
Exactly. So we know Otto didn't raise him.
Yeah, it would be tragic to cut the one like decent human amongst that family.
No.
I mean that brood, that
That
generation.
side of,
Like Helena's not bad, obviously.
Yeah, I know Helena's good.
I love Helena.
But she's
Yeah.
just kind of, she doesn't get to do much.
We don't know a lot about Helena, whereas we do know actions that Daeron has done.
We might be just assuming Helena's decent because she's such a tragic figure. She might also be crappy. She's like a bad person that's also a tragic figure. Who knows? Probably not. Though.
I'm gonna guess that she's sympathetic.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna guess she's
right,
sympathetic too.
that,
That would be like,
Do you think
pile that
Helena's really up in the Red Keep like Archer? Like, because how hard is it to poach a goddamn egg?
she's yelling at the service,
she's the
tripping.
most privileged, the most,
She just turns out to be terrible. She's like worse than Joffrey. Yeah, just like.
But I mean, upon maybe like a fifth reread of the Princess and the Queen, like the Dance of the Dragon story in general, because it's in a few different books, I came to really start trying to view Alicent through a much more sympathetic lens, because it's a chicken egg situation with how the tension started and the mistrust between the blacks and the greens. And really, when it comes down to it, yes, there's ambition there, but I've always believed that everything that Alicent has done, whether they're missteps or not, has been to protect her children. And I'm really glad to see Ryan Condal flesh out her character from the very beginning. I can see how Alicent is going to have moments where she does something probably horrific, and you're going to understand where all of this is going to come from.
Yes.
It's going to humanize her. You're always going to have your viewers that are determined to hate her no matter what. But,
especially Twitter.
Yeah, that's true. I'm like, I'm really throwing myself under the bus. I'm wearing an Alicent, the Queen in Chains shirt today. But no, I'm not Team Greens. I'm Team Gaiman Pale Hair, and I've said it many times on the show. I'm not Team Black or Team Green. Team Gaiman and Sylvena and Essie, like all the way. But right now in this moment, I am very much, Alicent has done zero wrong. She has just been a good girl who is doing her duty mostly for worse and not for better. So I just feel for her. But I do feel that she's going to fall deep into this like religious tilt, and I'm not gonna be on board with Alicent anymore. Like, I'm gonna get where she's coming from, but I have very little patience or understanding for that super hyper religious.
The Emily Carey Alicent is the one that's gonna be like, she's nice, and then
and then Olivia Cook, I'm like, I don't stand Olivia Cook Alicent. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. We'll like, I will see for sure, but like, I have a feeling she's gonna be a lot more severe and hard to love.
One of the other things about her too, about the betrayal that's going to hit her so hard, is that she is also, not only she stand Rhaenyra's ascent consistently behind the scenes, but she's also been the one that's helped the family like communicate multiple times. Viserys is like, oh yeah, I haven't talked to her yet. Like, you haven't talked to your daughter after this awful thing happened? That's happened like 3 times.
And we have that line from Alicent where she's like, in the trailer, where she's yelling at Rhaenyra. She's like, what is duty? You know, and you're like, yeah, I get why she yelled that at
duty?
her.
Yeah, what about duty and sacrifice? Which is
what is duty?
Alicent sacrificed all these things and took her duty seriously, and Rhaenyra's like flaunts duty and doesn't sacrifice anything. So I think that's why that line is becoming really big.
Mm-hmm. If I was Rhaenyra, I'd be like, if it was about duty, you wouldn't even be talking to me. Actually. But in one of the interviews on the official House of the Dragon podcast, there was an interview with Emily Carey, and she does bring up about how her and Olivia's portrayal of Alicent gets very, very religious. Like, she's very into her faith, and that's like a very integral part of her character. So I think after finding essentially, yeah, and I think after she does find out the truth about Rhaenyra, I think that's kind of that the auto is gonna like push her way over the edge.
Yeah, it comes through because you see her in that one outfit where she's got like a massive 7-point star, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alisha.
Yeah. I think that tensions are most definitely from this point on, they're going to be there. But when Alicent starts seeing Rhaenyra as a threat is after Aemon gets his eye gouged out.
Yeah.
And the Black Party is like, you know.
And that might be when we get Otto telling her, look, you either make your son king or you just live at her mercy, and you know how merciful she is. So it's a very it's a convincing argument. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you do need to do something about this.
Ooh, I feel like we might have some echoes to the whole situation on the Trident with like Joff, Sansa, and Arya, Lady Nymeria kind of like echoed in that scene where Cersei was so adamant about getting her way, and obviously Lady pays for it. So I feel like we're going to see the reverse of that, where Viserys is like, I mean, boys will be boys, am I right? And then just chalk it up to that.
Now, kid.
Sorry, kitty. Yeah, I know that.
But I know this is backtracking quite a bit, but I had this thought and I was waiting for it. I want to backtrack to the wedding just a little bit because I hadn't thought about Kristen Cole.
Please do.
I do think that he is pummeling Joffrey. I think what happens is somebody knocks Joffrey into Rhaenyra or something. I don't know. I think that it's a misunderstanding and Cole ends up pouncing on him. And I think that scene is going to be reminiscent and juxtaposed. Y'all know what I mean.
Juxtaposed, yes.
When Rhaenyra takes out all of her frustration on that boar, I think that's what ends up happening with Kristen Cole on Joffrey. Like, it starts out with him thinking maybe Joffrey's a threat. Yes.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah,
absolutely.
I want to make a point about what you were saying regarding rereading Fire and Blood and seeing and looking for the room for a lot of these plot lines that's been made and created a lot by the fact that it's a masterly author writing after the fact. I went in there looking for more of the bias that George implanted on purpose, and I found a really blatant example where it refers to the so-called marriage between Jace and Sarah Snow, where he's like, the Maester completely dismisses it because he's like, he would never break his sworn word over some unwashed northern savage. It's like, what did he call her? Unwashed northern? So like, how do you know she's unwashed? Where does this savage business come from? Like, it's all his prejudice against bastards and northerners all at once. It's like, that is really biased for a historical source. He calls her an unwashed savage. Like, what? So,
well, think about the way the Lannisters think about Lyanna.
Oh yeah,
you know, similar, like she's pretty, but you know, she's just a candle flame compared to the sun.
Yeah, because they're all about they have their prejudices on looks and they don't care about personality at all, which is their mistake.
Funny you say that because I had just finished rereading Dunk and Egg again, and they also bring up like the same type of perspective of our Northerners.
Oh yeah,
is that they view them as like a whole different area of Westeros to begin with. Like they're their own culture. They are barbaric. They are wolves. They are not classy like the rest of us. So I'm interested to see what happens when we start getting the Starks in the show.
I'm just gonna say, as the person amongst this quartet that lives in the real world equivalent to the North, there's just something very attractive about a human being that can handle these temps without whining all the time. I'm just gonna say.
Did you just dismiss the fact I grew up in New England like that?
Okay, but this is Minnesota. Okay.
Nice. The accent came out. I love it. I grew up in Ohio too, but it's been a long time.
Grew up.
It was
As
a
in,
while
like,
You grew up where?
like,
I've never
Ohio.
heard of
Yeah,
it.
like-
I've never heard of it. I forgot all about it.
It's all Ohio.
Northern
Didn't
Ohio.
Shea grow up in Hawaii?
That is true. That is true. Born and raised. You know, I was at like a party
Far
a couple
west.
weeks ago, and someone was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "California and Hawaii." And they're like, "You can't claim two places." And I was like, "I think I
I
can."
do all the time.
I was like, I don't feel right to saying just one. Like, it feels wrong to, like, I'm not, I don't know.
Hawaii's pretty close to Dragonstone, you know, equivalent wise, you know.
Mhm. I personally claim Texas and Vegas.
Okay, so you're
I've been
with me.
straying-
Thank you. I was like,
Vegas.
it took me
Yep.
aback. I was like, I think I can. I think I can, and
Yep.
I do.
Yep. It's just not true to say one or the other.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask a big prediction from y'all. We're getting towards the end here, but I have an
Okay.
important question for everyone. A prediction.
Oh,
What
important.
kicks off the time jump? What's the last scene? Like they got to do something kind of big-ish, or at least leave it meaningful or momentous. Like, where do we end before a 10-year time jump? That's a really, I'm sure they put a lot of time thinking it, unless they just had some great idea and they're like, that's the idea.
See, I think we'll get a cheesy montage of the years passing and like them aging.
As the days go
Yeah, I was
by.
gonna say with vitamin C.
Yeah, you got some music playing. You know, you're the best. all around. They're all warming. They're all training for the dance. You know, they're doing dance moves. Yeah.
Final count.
I think I have a theory.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
hit it
let's
out.
hear
Because
it.
I do not have one. I'm just
I
like,
think we might end with the birth of Aemond.
Ooh.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
That's a
yeah.
good one.
And the only reason why I say that is because I know. Don't make that face, Alicia. You know how I feel about him. I was gonna say, are you gonna do the accent? But no. But with Aemond, yeah, just because he's such a big player
He is a big
Mhm.
player.
in, especially on the Greens faction, but to come, and even in like the trailers, we didn't get a lot of Aegon, but we do get shots of Aemond.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I could see
Get
maybe
more
them
Aemond for sure.
end with his birth,
Mhm.
possibly.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That's a good idea.
it's gonna be juxtapositioned. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
We got there.
I thank you. Rhaenyra finding out she's pregnant with her first with Aemon's birth.
That would be
Yeah.
interesting.
Could be.
Ah. That's cool
Just
because
spitballing.
that is how they're definitely gonna come out of the break immediately. That's one of the first things we'll see is the children and where they're at now, and see, wow,
Yeah.
they're all grown up, or who are those kids for some people?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I lied. I had another theory. That or Lena and Damon's wedding.
Oh, that would be a good
Ooh,
one.
Maybe they get a little
could
or
be-
something.
Yeah.
That could be very
Oh,
good.
good.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
It would just
Either
be
of those two.
two weddings in one episode. It'd just be a little moment of that one, but still.
Or I mean, I guess like strictly speaking, I have to. It's possible that like they do it at the beginning of episode 6,
Yeah,
not the end of
yeah.
episode 5. You know what I mean? Like we know that they're the older versions in episode 6, but it's possible that like there's an opening scene where everyone ages. you
That's
know?
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alicia. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna cite my ADHD to go back to a further thought.
Do it.
Tommen and Marjorie's wedding was calm.
Oh yeah,
and it
yeah.
was like a whole non-11 affair, and it was okay. All right, just
true.
needed that off my
Absolutely.
chest.
You're
Okay?
right.
yes.
They were totally.
Alright.
They were like, "All right, we're not doing these big weddings anymore." Let's just. They had wedding fatigue.
Yeah,
The
Marjorie
characters in
in
world.
particular. Yes.
It's so interesting to think
There
about.
comes the charm.
I think like just to think about this time jump and to think about like over the course of original Game of Thrones, decent amount of time passed, not 10 years, but some of the characters were pretty young and became young adults. No one went from child to adult. No, there wasn't that much time. But we have Sansa
Close enough.
and Danny.
Yeah,
I mean, they're young
close
adults. They're
enough with,
adults
like,
living adult. They're
Bran,
young
yeah.
but living adult lives.
Like
we'll say,
about like Bran was like right perfectly on the cusp, but like he
Robin.
was like an adult, you know, like Sweet Robin. Yeah, that's a
That's
great
a good-
example
he had his
because
big
he
glow
literally
up,
had his
yeah.
exactly because of the glow up. Like that actor literally did very
Yeah,
much
he did.
age.
Yeah, for sure. But Arya, like
Aged well.
we went from Arya like curtsying as a 10-year-old to sleeping with Gendry, like Sandor going from murderous guy to like
Yeah.
decent
Whereas
guy.
I'll bring it up here because I didn't say my answer for it either because I don't have a strong opinion on like a specific scene, but I do agree with like Geek Furious who brought up the idea of like doing a morph from younger to older. The idea that like you like end on like the shot of, again, let's say Millie is Rhaenyra, and then you start like with that shot and she ages, you know, like the idea
like
of-
Jon Snow with the baby Jon.
yeah, like exactly like that type of editing style, something to make it like very obvious to viewers this is them aged up. I think that is possible, but again, that could happen because she's in childbirth, or there's a wedding. Like, there's a number of places where you can have
that could
a
actually
zoom in.
happen at the end of the episode for like 2 seconds, and then they okay,
or at the beginning, you know, what, vice versa, beginning or end of the episode. I think that it isn't necessary to show. Like, I think it'll be very clear to viewers, but it would be a way to like really make it clear. Like, no, this is the aged up Rhaenyra or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been lots of shows that have done this kind of time jump before. I mean, it's not common. But, and I'm guessing other successor shows that they do in this world would maybe make use of that as well, because of, like, if they do Aegon the Conqueror, they're not just going to do day to day in his reign after the conquest. Like, that's some slow stuff right there. They need to jump around more. But like a show like Vikings did a 10-year time jump, for example. It was pretty much to age up the children there too. So, you know,
Alisha doesn't like talking about that.
Look at her head. She's like, no, do not say that word.
Listen. I love Vikings.
Like
I loved Vikings until like Gretchen Wieners tries to make fetch happen. Michael Hurst tried to make Ivar happen. I guess my whole issue with Vikings is I don't have issue with the time jump in itself. It's just when like Ivar's sons, we saw them on screen as little ones, enough episodes for you to at least like make them somewhat important so that by the time they age up, we care about them. Where I think Ryan Condal has done right is really we've only seen Aegon on screen maybe twice, whereas he's mentioned incessantly.
As the heir.
My mind has a better time wrapping around the fact that when he ages up, it's like, okay, Aegon is here and he's going to be important.
You barely knew who Ragnar's kids were until they were adults.
They haven't even said Helena's name, actually, which is a surprise. I would have thought they would have said her name out loud once just because of that. So that was interesting too.
They barely even they didn't even
kind of take a back seat in the story.
Yeah, she, you know,
unfortunately.
Yeah, it was funny. When speaking like I'm wearing this Queen and Chains shirt by Fox and Brambles. That's the artist who did our new History of Westeros logo. Plug for her. But the point is that I wanted her to make a Helena shirt for me, but I was requesting things that I was like, people will buy these shirts. So anyways, and she's like, well, what do I put for her caption thing? Like, what is her subtitle?
What I can fly.
Yeah.
Like, what do you put for Helena? You don't know a personality yet for her. So like, what would you write for her? I was like, Dreamfire? Like,
Rider of Dreamfire.
Like, but we have to meet her. Like the Whaler. I don't know what you say.
The Whaler.
I was gonna say good grief, but then I was like, wait, that's definitely like a Peanuts lawsuit.
I love that. I do like that. But
I was gonna say I believe I can fly, but that might be a little dark.
Yeah, you know, it's like we don't have anything for her yet, so I hope we get this personality for her.
Yikes. So, okay, I got a question for y'all. This will be our last question, minus anything I may have missed here.
Okay.
Which character hates which character the most at this point? Alicent hate Daemon, Otto hate Daemon hate Otto, Corlys hate Viserys, Kristen Cole hating Rhaenyra. That isn't quite yet. That's going to develop in this episode, which will lead to Alicent hating.
It's like
Rhaenyra.
Alisha has her answer.
Alicia's ready. Who hates who the most?
Otto hates Daemon the most. There's no reason. There's no reason. Like, you can tell Daemon doesn't like Otto, but it's just like Otto, it's just unadulterated loathing toward Daemon, and Daemon is just like, what, dude? Like, you can tell it started with Otto. It was on site with Otto, in my humble opinion. Okay.
Also, Otto and Daemon, and it's making me wonder, since Daemon obviously grew up in the Red Keep for a big chunk of his like childhood, and Otto was there already. I wonder if like Daemon was just like a little snot-nosed kid just, like, messing around with Otto, like pull pranks on him just because. Like,
that's a good point.
When it up, like, you like get it, like, you know, he just likes getting a rise out of you.
There's
like,
no way he was a well-behaved kid.
I'm just thinking Daemon was just like messing with Otto for just years. Like, the moment he could walk until. Well, I'm not sure. We did spoilers.
He stole his handpin, probably. He's like, ah.
Yeah, he's probably just like, maybe he left like dragon poop on his like chair or something. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's definitely that, because I hate to be that guy. I think a lot of these problems start with Otto. Otto wasn't so insistent on Rhaenyra having like a claim over Daemon.
Well, to further your point, Arah, in the first episode, like Daemon said some messed up stuff about Otto's wife.
Yeah.
And Viserys must be so numb to the antagonization that he's like, he likes to make sport. So this must be going on for decades.
Yeah.
You know?
Otto's like, again, I have to pretend that I'm the problem here. Like, he makes fun of my dead wife, and I'm like, oh, don't let him provoke you. Like,
I mean, that's a great point all in general, because like we were talking about how Otto is this like parental father figure for Viserys, but like we didn't think about, okay, well, if he played that role for Viserys, did he play any sort of role for Daemon in his life? Did they interact? Like did not cross my mind the idea that like Viserys has known Otto since he was a young boy, so that's true for Daemon too. So that's really
good point. Yeah,
good food for thought. And I will say, Daemon and Otto have the best ship name. It's Ottoman. The Ottoman ship. And I'm not alone in being like, see, if Otto and Daemon would just hook up, then a lot of problems would be solved. It's the answer to everything.
It's a lot of sexual tension.
Oh boy, that is hilarious. Yeah, you do wonder about that. Like, how old is Otto? I'm not clear on
yeah, you're right.
that,
I'm also not sure on that. Like, he was old enough to be, when to become a hand within 5 days of Daelon dying. So it has to be a good 15 years old. I would guess at least 10 years older than Viserys.
You're right. Yeah, he would have been a young-ish hand, but he couldn't have been like a teenager. Yeah, so
I
he
wouldn't
must have been at least in his 20s.
Yeah,
it's interesting how they're playing up how Viserys is aging, and I know a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's unwell, but it does make it hard for the casual viewer to get a good sense of who's older.
I that's also a good point. I could not tell you what age I think Viserys is.
Yeah, he
for Daemon, I'm like Daemon is in his 30s. Yeah. I can think that, so I would guess. Viserys is like 40. I don't know.
He's supposed to be 5 years.
Can I make a slight rant as a Black woman, as a fellow mixed woman? I feel some sort of way that they make all the male wigs snatched. Like even as Viserys is balding, they somehow make that look realistic, the way that they do the makeup and the laying of it. But they put poor little Lena in that Founding Fathers Party City wig. Like, can you do a little more justice for my women of color?
She
please?
still looks
That's
great.
all I'm asking.
I see, like, whereas I hear that, but I look at little Lena and her hair, and I think her hair looks beautiful. Like, I know, I get it from that perspective, but me as like, I'm a stand for some curly, big, like hair. I'm into it.
But what you're saying is I'm your type.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. I think both of you, but yeah. But I will say, like, Arah, your hair does look nicer than Lena's, so there is that.
But I was gonna say, with her, I think it's just the size of her head. It's really hard to find like a lace front wig in that texture, in that size of skull. It's very, very hard.
There's not a lot of those made already.
Her hair looks nice. As Savannah Stein as the teen Lena. Her ringlets, her curls look gorgeous. I like looks like she figured out how to tame her curls a little bit. Corley's got involved after Rhaenys was doing her hair before.
That's the real reason they can't do dragon scenes with her, is that the wig just wouldn't work.
Yeah, I do wonder about like Rhaenys or her. Like, very curious about everything going on behind the scenes in House Velaryon. I guess.
So Arah and I both have white mothers and Black fathers, and I can tell you right now, the moment the white mother takes the back seat to trying to help out with the hair, we just flourish after that.
Time out. I'm just gonna speak from my own experience. My mom went and studied cosmetology as the only white girl in a predominantly Black school. So I always had, like, my hair was always done well when my mom had control of it. When I took control over it and started dyeing it, pulling it back, I ruined my hair. But I'm an outlier.
For you. I apologize.
I'm an outlier, though.
That's nice.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Right on. Well, let's see. Do we have any final business? TKOK Podcast Network says, sends a super chat, says, no question, it's just love. Well, love back to you. Check out the TKOK Podcast Network, y'all.
Tommy was just in the Canary Islands. Yeah. Is out of the country. Fancy.
Some great photos.
I know. Yeah, it's been cool seeing his trip. Questions just also, Tony Sled, is Allison going to switch actresses too? Yes, let's just talk about that just real briefly.
Yeah, there's a lot of people switching out,
Yes, Alicent and Rhaenyra are both aging up. Laena and Laenor are also both going to age up. Obviously, Aegon 2 is going to age up. He's a baby. And he's going to age up again.
Yeah.
Helena as well is going to age up twice more. We have teen versions of Aegon and Aemond. And I don't know I guess maybe we'll see baby Aemond too. But we will get 3 versions of some of these characters, whereas some we've gotten 2. But yeah, like we will see Aegon is played by Ty Tennant. That is David Tennant's son, as well as Tom Glyn Carney. Whereas Aemond is played by Leo Ashton and then by Ewan Mitchell. And this is cool to me because Helena is played by Evie Allen and then Fia Saban. Both of those people are from The Last Kingdom. We've got both Helena and Aemond. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, and when I was watching this most recent season of The Last Kingdom, every scene I was like, oh, it's Helena or it's Aemond. And it was very exciting to see them, especially Helena. I could see her character being similar to The Last Kingdom, whereas Aemond, the actor who plays Aemond, is so different.
So yeah, the most
you
nice
know
man.
that you know that he's gonna kill this role when he was that different. Like he was not typecast at all. So like it's a good sign.
We had this weird moment watching that show.
Yeah, yes,
we had this weird moment watching that show because Helena is like the character in Last Kingdom. Stands over a window like she thinks she considers committing suicide by jumping out a window. And we're just like, not again!
Yeah, what were you saying, Arah?
So I have this like slightly rogue theory. I personally think Last Kingdom, spoilers, they killed off his character because in the book he did die.
I haven't watched it yet.
I'm convinced they killed him. Sorry. Convinced that you'll forget by this point. I'm convinced they killed him off just to film the show.
I think that's entirely possible. Like he got that job.
I feel like he's like,
got to write him
well,
out.
I got the House of the Dragon contract, so
I got to go, y'all. Yeah. I think that's entirely possible. Although it was filmed so long ago, I don't know, maybe not. But I agree with you. I think that theory has.
I'm going to say this is not the last of the Last Kingdom cast we've seen in Game of Thrones. I think this is like, the British show that we're going to see a lot of people from. Like I'm looking forward to some other cameos.
I agree. We'll point them out to you when we see them, if we see them, along with any other character connections from fun shows that we're aware of. That's part of what we like to do. Faux show. All right.
But I guess it is on your list. You should watch The Last Kingdom, Alisha, if you like the Vikings so much.
I plan on
it's
it.
A good show.
Plan on it. But
well
okay, so while you were off, I was telling Aziz and Arah that I have to be in a TV watching mood, and then I marathon, and then I don't think much of it for a couple of months. So Last Kingdom is on a very, very long list.
And you got there's a movie coming that's going to wrap up The Last Kingdom, so it's not actually over.
Like Peaky Blinders.
Oh yeah, I guess yes.
They got the traditional 5 seasons in a movie, you know. The movie isn't out yet, though. Okay, folks, so I guess it's time to wrap up. Any final thoughts, Arah and Alisha, on what's coming? Anything we didn't touch on, or anything you wanted to say about the rest of the season?
Well, I was listening last week. Typically, throughout the years, I always agree with Ashaya. Most times. Most of the time. I'm not going to kiss ass too much and say every time. Most times. She was saying that she's pretty confident, and also she wants to see flashbacks with Millie and Emily. And I've been banking on that and really hoping for it too. So even though this is the episode that we say goodbye to them consistently, I still think we're going to see them show up.
I hope you're right. And I think even if they didn't have that planned in season 1 that they might do that, I think they might decide to do it after the fact because they've had such a great reaction to those people. Like maybe they'll change their mind and do it.
Just killed it.
Like they can just choose to do it if they want to.
We've done a Facebook poll every week in our group, and Millie has been like first, second. Like she just completely crushed everyone's all the votes. Yeah. So that's great. Okay, well.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm gonna miss Emily and Millie a lot, but I'm so excited to see Emma and Olivia.
Same.
Alisha and I are both big fans of Bates Motel.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm interested to see Olivia's take on Allison because I feel like it's so much different than her character.
Yeah. Alisha.
And to piggyback off of that, I haven't really seen Olivia do a whole lot with Alicent, but from the nonverbals alone, you can tell she's a wonderful actress because as I'm watching, seeing her as Alicent without seeing her in action, I've forgotten what her portrayal in Bates Motel is like.
Oh, nice. Interesting. Wow, that's a quite a bit of praise there. Yeah, they have done such a good job. The casting has been.
But yeah, no, Olivia is one of the actors in the show that I've seen in the most things. So like I have maybe the highest expectations for her because I've seen her be consistently very good. Actually, I take that back. I actually had the highest hopes for Sonoya Mizuno as Mazaria because I've seen Sonoya in a lot of things, doing a lot of very, very different roles. Like she never seems to do the same thing twice. And I haven't loved her. I love the character Mazaria, but I haven't loved her actual portrayal of Mazaria. I've gone into it. I have mixed feelings. So I had the highest hopes, and then I was slightly disappointed there. So, but besides her, Olivia, I've seen in the most things because she was in like Sound of Metal, and she was Vanity Fair, and a bunch of other things.
Mazaria's gonna be around a while still. Yeah. Maybe things will pick up.
Yeah, maybe will. I'm happy with Mazaria's character. To be clear.
I have not seen Olivia Cook or Emma Darcy in anything, and it's just amazing to me to think about. They were hired first. They were hired before Millie and Emily, and they were hired at the same time as Matt Smith and Patty Considine. Those were the first 4 people they cast. So it's like the core 4 for the majority of the show. So it's kind of wild to think about that these 2 amazing actresses that are leaving were hired afterwards. Like they were like, okay, we need to find 2 actresses that look like these 2 that we hired first and are also good at acting. What an amazing find that because they have the look. You've seen shots of them next to each other and it's like, wow, they look related, but they're also phenomenal actors. Like, wow. So
I have seen Emma Darcy. She was in this movie Misbehavior, which also had Otto Hightower in it.
Really?
As it happens. Yeah, they were in that together. She wasn't a big role. They weren't in a big role. But they were also in that show Truth Seekers, which I tried the first episode of because I wanted to like see Emma in something, but it was a little too scary for me. I mean, it was like a comedy about horror topics, but I'm a baby and like it will give me nightmares.
Same.
I enjoy it in the moment. Like I can enjoy a good jump scare or something scary, but that night I'll have nightmares. So I didn't give it a shot. Yeah. But I'm
the same way.
So that was the only thing I've seen Emma in at all. So yeah, very, very fresh face for all of us, I think. I think some people did watch Truth Seekers after it was announced because like you hear that this person is going to be the lead in a new show. Let's watch something with them. That's that show that's got it's Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. So it is funny for sure, and it's on Amazon Prime if you want to see Emma in something.
Right on. Okay,
Emma's
folks.
about to kill it.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. Thank you very much, Direwolf City. It was awesome. Make sure to check out Direwolf City 8:30 on Mondays and check out Preposterous
It's easy for them to
AF.
remember because you'll be here, I hope, on Mondays, and you'll hear us say, go over to Direwolf City, and we'll drop a link. So,
yep. And if you hadn't checked them out, now you know who we're talking about.
Yes.
Of course, there's 2 more. Let's go ahead and shout out the rest of Direwolf City while you're out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have our other co-host, which I'm assuming a lot of you guys probably know. She's a veteran in this game as well. Great area, MJ, and the Hand of the Queen, Nim's Shadow, or Mandy. We also have our own YouTube channel. It's Direwolf City. Direwolf is one word, and City is a separate word. So if you guys want to go look that up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's the same 4 of you on Preposterous AF, or is that a different configuration?
It's the same 4.
Right on. Cool. Wanted to clarify that.
We ride hard, we die hard.
Direwolf City is a tight-knit community.
A tight-knit pack, yes.
Pack, that's right.
Preposterous direwolves, as we call our group chat. So.
That's good. Well, thanks again, y'all. Shout out to your partners in crime over there, and I hope y'all check it out and enjoy the rest of the season. Thank you as well to our patrons and any of y'all who subscribe to us on Spotify subscriptions.
Mention our Wednesday stream.
Oh yeah, we are doing a stream this Wednesday as well, sort of a half-season Q&A, little midway point catch up on things. There's a lot of questions we've missed from y'all over the weeks here, and some new questions that certainly have formed, and there'll be questions based on episode 5 as well. The time jump seems like a good time to take care of that, so that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Thanks as well to Michael Klarfeld and Bran the Builder, aka Bran Winslow, and Joey Townsend and Jesse Koval for our maps and music and all the great stuff that helps make our show look a little nicer and sound a little better. We appreciate that. Alisha.
Speaking of Michael Klarfeld and maps, if Ashea leans slightly over a little bit, you can see me on that little Dorn map.
Yes,
I am holding Dawn.
That is Alisha, one of the. You are the evening Dane, as it were.
I am the evening Dane, but huge shout out to Michael Clarfeld, who I love interacting with about just about anything because he has one of the sharpest wits I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, he's got jokes on jokes
He
on
does.
jokes.
He does.
As well. I agree. Like,
person.
yes, he's a very talented artist, but when I think of Michael, I do think about his sparkling wit even more than I think about his great talent. You're right. He's always got great comments.
Michael is a hard man to please when it comes to TV too. He's quit so many different shows that we all love, but he's loving House of the Dragon.
Yeah,
So,
you're right.
It has his seal of approval. Yep. Cool. All right, folks. That's a wrap. Thanks again to Direwolf City. Enjoy the episode tomorrow, everyone.
Can I just say something? I just want to say I'm really glad to have y'all on finally, and I want to shout out us for our scheduling this season. I don't know if anyone has clocked it, but we have had, out of everyone we've announced for the season coverage, we've had 2 men on, and everyone else has been a woman. And that is continuing. We it's just kind of worked out that way. And I was like, I want to keep that working out. Like, let's keep that energy going forward. And so I am appreciative of having so many women that we can invite on the show. Like, I'm like, again, 10 years ago, if we had tried to have an entire season of coverage where pretty much everyone was a woman, we just wouldn't have really been able to do that. Yeah. It'd have been a big struggle. And now there's like so many, because we have y'all on. We're gonna have Girls Gone Canon on later in the season. Joanna Robinson, Kim Renfro. We already had Lady Gwyn on. So anyways, just a lot of women coming on. So that's cool. For me.
Makes a lot of sense.
Given House of the Dragon, I was like, this is the time to do it. So, so if you guys enjoyed having a fix of mostly women talking on this stream, then please go check out Direwolf City, where it can be in that the whole time, the whole way through.
Hell yeah. All right, folks. Until next time, you know what to do. Valar read us, and Valar rewatch us.
Oops.